What music do you want, Phil? Regular or Champions Cup?
Oh, Champions Cup.
Oh, come on then.
You've been working from home, but your flatmate just took up the drums as a hobby.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. An Indeed CV helps you personalise your job search. And even helps the right job find you.
Oh, no, cut that out. Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. Why am I talking over this incredible music? Let's just enjoy it. Very, very cool music. Very cool competition still, just about. And some big games will obviously form part of this podcast. We're here in the Rugby Dungeon. I'm Tim with JB.
Hello, Tim.
Barefooted and ready for OnlyFans.
Indeed I am.
And Phil.
Hello, Tim.
He's wearing trainers with incredibly... I'm just looking at the amount of tread going on. Incredible tread.
Ooh, good tread.
Good tread. The opposite of JB. How are you, gents? You all right?
Very well, thank you.
Good. We got loads to cover on this podcast, both on the field, off the field... emails.
Emails? We've not done emails for ages.
Yeah.
Or Patreon pod for ages.
Contact eggchasers@gmail.com. I'm sure you might have some spicy stuff we can get into on a Patreon pod.
Oh, maybe.
Let's do that. Patreon.com/eggchasers is where we are. Where do you want to start?
Oh, Heineken Cup. Has to be Heineken Cup. Only show in town.
Just had that music. I'm pumped.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so good.
And you were there, Tim. You were... in Dublin.
Yeah, I was. Felt very, very...
Whoa.
Very privileged to be
You
there.
don't want to start with Widnes on Friday night?
Yeah, happily start. Actually, that's a good place to start with Widnes on Friday night. Final game of the season for Rafi Quirk's Broughton Park under-15s. Did you know that you're not allowed to play rugby after the
summer.
month of April?
Yeah, you have to stop.
After summer. Yeah, 1st of July.
1st of July is
I
over.
didn't realise you had to stop.
Yeah, because all the games have got to be concluded to make sure that all the league tables can be sorted out and, cup games are done and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, we just got lads that just were like, can we have some more games? Can we play some more? Can we play some more teams? Can we do some? And they were like, no, you're not allowed.
I'm sure someone's taken out of contacts because obviously you have touring clubs and all sorts.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think our club are quite pedantic and they just seem to have decided that, no, you're not allowed to, but I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, anyway. Went to Widnes, very good team.
Yeah, good club.
Is one of those things, and this is a bridge we're going to have to cross next season, I think, when they move into under-16s. We've got a massive squad. So we've got one lad who's never played rugby before, and he played his first game on Friday night.
Ooh, that's not a place where you want to play your first game either.
No, not particularly. But we've just got a big squad, and we've had the kind of the principle that you turn up and train, and then you turn up for the game, you get half a game. So we were 7-all with our two first teams going head to head, and then they.
Why don't you have a second team?
You need to make the leap from 1 to 2 teams. We've got about 30 guys.
Yeah.
You need about 45 guys.
Yeah, you probably need pushing 50 guys. Don't you, really?
Okay, so the interesting dilemma you have is basically the opposite dilemma to all the other age grade teams, because Didsbury under 16s next year will be merging with Manchester. Obviously, you're merged with Didsbury and Broughton Park.
We had 3 Didsbury lads came to play with us.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not a merger.
That's a merger.
Oh, right.
It's a hostile takeover.
Takeover.
Right,
yeah.
okay. So, you've got a situation there where you've... so you've actually already solved it. I was going to say, maybe demerging some teams. But if you've only got 3 lads, it doesn't really matter.
No, I think we're just going to have development fixtures and first team fixtures and kind of do it like that, because both the better players aren't getting enough time on the pitch together to develop, and the weaker players are getting exposed in games like Widnes on Friday, when 7-all when they were going head to head, and then we made all our changes and they won.
Could your better players
28-7.
play up an age level? Are you allowed to? Probably not now.
I don't know that you are. No.
Sure,
when you get to Colts, you are.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah, because you have junior and senior Colts, and then the senior spans like a 2-year.
Yeah, 17s and 18s.
So
anyway, it was great. But there was one thing. So just to make the point that we have definitely reached peak mullet in rugby. A bunch of our boys have mullets, and one of our lads, our 12, scored a really good try. And I heard that we heard their coach behind the posts gather his team together and go, "What have I told you, lads? the ones with the stupid haircuts are going to be good, so just tackle them.
True.
It's true.
True.
Well, you've got to be good, because if you're not good with a stupid haircut or wearing the flash boots,
Yeah.
I was going to say it's the new flash boots.
You've got to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that was Friday night. And then Saturday morning, went to Dublin. And I felt really privileged to be there. A brilliant atmosphere. Despite EPCR's attempts to sabotage what could have been a great atmosphere.
Sorry, tell me about this.
The ticket pricing was just a little bit over the top.
So what was it?
Well, the initial batch of tickets got sold, and I think they were at a slightly lower price than the rest of them, but most of the tickets were 75 quid. No child concession price.
That's interesting.
And they still managed to sell 46,000.
I was going to say, it wasn't a sellout though, was it?
It wasn't a sellout. They were nearly 10,000 short of a sellout, but that's pretty good going. The flip side of that is they haven't had to travel anywhere, so that most of those fans. So
look, I think
it's a tough one.
When you've got like the Premiership Cup, by all means, ram it full of kids and get them excited, because they don't know if they are watching the third choice academy scrum half or whoever else it is. They just don't know. They're just happy to be there, and the kit's all the same and whatnot. This is adult rugby now.
Yeah.
This is big boy rugby. You pay your money. It's an event. It should be expensive.
Yeah, I guess so. But the fact it wasn't a sellout means maybe they pitched it a little bit too much.
Too high, yeah.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere nonetheless was brilliant. I was just disappointed. I was thinking this could be a classic.
It wasn't though, was it really?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
It wasn't at all. It was being billed, like it was all being talked up, the two titans of the Champions Cup, and it wasn't. Now
I feel bad, and I just want to excuse Craig Doyle. I gave him basically the opening line. I said to Craig, the way we sell this game, not sell it, but the way the fact of this game is, and this was his opening link. It was almost verbatim what I said to him. He went, yeah. Was this could be the greatest game of club rugby ever? It's the world number 1 and world number 2 teams with a huge amount of those players playing in these two club sides. The world's best player in Antoine Dupont. The two most decorated clubs in European rugby history. And, and it just didn't live up to that billing at all, unfortunately.
Now, how much of it was the fact that Leinster are just evidently a significantly stronger team than Toulouse? And how much of it were things that kind of went wrong for Toulouse on the pitch? Because there was a couple of significant ones when the 13 goes off injured and you've got a 6-2 split. Yeah. And so Dupont has to move to 10, Entamac has to move into the centres. That totally disrupted things. And combine that, like the total disruption of the back line and moving the world's best player into a position where he's comfortable, but not this level. And
he's not the world's best player in that position, is he?
Exactly, yeah. He didn't have as much time on the ball. Combine that with the 2 yellow cards, which happened at bad times for Toulouse and were ruthlessly exploited by Leinster.
Yeah.
I do feel that had those things all not happened, it would have been a better arm wrestle. I still think Leinster would have won, seeing what we saw of the teams, but I think that was quite a big
I would add to that, 2 glaring yellow cards for Leinster were not given any time. Andrew Porter's lift beyond the horizontal in a tackle in the first half.
Off the ball as well.
Just before the Meafu try. Foul play doesn't... Because some people were saying, he scored the try though, so there's no yellow card. No, that's not how it works. Foul play is foul play. And so,
I was a bit surprised they didn't go back.
So that should have been dealt with. And also, I don't think... I'm not defending Netty for his yellow card. His behaviour, I think that was probably warranted it. But Josh van der Fleer is not blameless, and I think he deserved a yellow card.
Yeah. One thing Leinster...
I could see that being a yellow card as well. Yeah.
One thing Leinster did very well, I thought, was making sure Jack Willis didn't get anywhere near the ball.
He had maybe 1 turnover.
Yeah,
a couple of
quiet.
good, strong runs.
1 clear out from James Ryan on Jack Willis. Did you see that one in the first half? Oh, my goodness.
I'm not sure I did.
He ragdolled him. and that's one player. And I think James Ryan is probably what I would... one person I would use to answer your question about was this Leinster being that good. I think they are significantly better than last year, when it was a similar scoreline, 40 points to 7. So you could sort of say, it's sort of similar for last season to this season. But I think Leinster are significantly better than last year, and James Ryan is a case in point. He has gone from being a second row that you go, is he a little bit lightweight, not quite top elite level, to I think he's the best in Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland combined. He'd be a Lions starting second row.
Well, that's what we thought before the Lions.
And I was just about to say his career trajectory. When he burst onto the scene, he was top for the Lions, and then he had injuries, he had a few concussion issues as well, and he dropped down for a couple of years, and now he does seem to have picked up his initial trajectory. Shall we say that?
Yes.
But the Lions question is an interesting one, because I was looking at this Leinster team thinking, how many of this get into the starting Lions pack, or even a match day 23, just in the pack?
Porter, Sheehan, Furlong, Ryan.
The front row is definitely 23.
Van der Fleer.
Yeah, Ryan's in there. Van der Fleer and Doris are in there.
And Doris, so 6. Or 6. 6
6
are in the 23, definitely, maybe even in the starting side.
Yeah, and then Conan, who made the Lions tour last time.
And he's started third test.
He's playing brilliantly.
So you could even have
7.
6 or 7, maybe 7, because you'd make an argument.
And if Tyke Byrne was fit and firing, maybe him as well.
Tyke Byrne...
Munster?
Oh no, sorry, it's Munster.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm thinking of the Island team. Sorry.
Yes, but yes, you would be right. He would be a Lion.
The trajectory
he would be a Lion.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. The trajectory of Ryan Baird could demand that by 2025 he is in the mix as well. I love him,
and he is like Tyke Byrne type of player as well.
Yeah. So one of the things about the Heineken Cup, which I've always defended it for, is it gives us an indication of what works. So, is it the enormous amounts of money that Toulouse spend that work? Well, not today. Is it the resting of the Leinster players and the Irish care and welfare policies? Well, not for the last 11 years it hasn't been.
Or one of the last 11 years.
Yeah, one of the last 11 years it has, but otherwise not that. Is it the fact that the Premiership has to focus so much more on coaching and playing to certain strength? Well, some years it is, some years it isn't. It does feel like this year it might be the things that Leinster are doing that are going to go right.
Well, what do you identify that Leinster are doing? What would you put your finger on there that they're doing that other teams aren't?
I'm just sort of thinking about this now, because they've not created this team, which you see in front of you, by buying these lads. I mean, all the lads you've just named in that starting Lions pack, well, they're just there. They just exist in Leinster colours. They've always been Leinster, and they're there. So
many of them have been Blackrock, then Leinster.
Yeah, and that's quite incredible, actually, to do that. So, I don't know is the answer. I don't know what they're doing there.
I think what we're seeing this season is, and I put it down to, a lot of things. It's one, the investment, and are you listening, the RFU, when I say this? It's the investment that Irish rugby has put into coaching at grassroots level right through to elite level for a significant amount of time. You mentioned Blackrock then, Phil. The schools, the coaches at schools are exceptional, so you get players coming out into the Leinster Academy ready to play first team rugby.
Yeah, it's still a little bit retrograde though, do you not think? So we have this situation in England where there's no two ways about it. The private schools in England provide an amazing sort of like nursery for these developing players. But even so, you listen to what Eddie Jones says. He's like, well, no, the private school system here is what's holding England back. Well, private school system in England is like Ireland's, but much, much bigger and with much more money in it. So, like, why is there different?
Players to the same degree are not coming out of school ready to play first team rugby at that level, whereas they are at Leinster.
Yeah, is that a school thing, or is it an academy thing,
or is it a Blackrock thing?
It might be,
I don't really know.
Maybe all of those things. But one thing, I spoke to Gordon Darcy about this when I worked with him years ago, and he said it was about 5-6 years ago working on a Leinster game, and he was saying the amount of money they spend on coaching coaches,
I bet,
is massive. And whereas what did England do 5 or 6 years ago, around the time when Gordon Darcy was talking about this for Ireland? They culled all the development officers.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's just so many different things. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just don't see the grassroots game in England as the key driver of providing professional rugby players. And not only do I not see it as that, I think it's going to get further and further away, because the culture and the things that they want in clubs from the RFU centrally, and probably when they have these coaches too, is so different from being a professional rugby player. So the demands of professional rugby could only really be met by the insular nature of a private school who don't mind saying things like, go and smash each other, go and be violent, go and be aggressive.
Go and do weights 4 times a week.
Go and do weights 4 times a week. And you just don't, when you've got centrally contracted community coaches who've got to...
No, and that's
do you see what I mean?
I do. But
they just don't have
the
that.
investment in making sure the coaches, wherever they appear, who have contact with these young men... I give them a great grounding, so they've got basic skills. But the other thing I was going to say, so that's coaches at the base level, but then coaches at the top level. Leinster have had a brilliant coaching ticket for a while now, and I think this is Stuart Lancaster. I think that's what I think. Well, the way Leinster are playing, the speed at which they execute the moves that they do, the identification of when things are on. It's not just that they attack the blind side a lot, which they did against Toulouse to great effect, and they have done all season. It's the understanding of when to do it and how to do it, and just that execution at high speed in high pressure, making good decisions. I think can only be the consequence of players with very good skills and understanding and an incredible coaching team,
or a coaching team which just lets them get on with it. I mean, so one of the dichotomies of coaching, I guess, is like the decentralised thing, which is allowing the players just to go and make their own decisions, which is great when you've got Leinster, but it might be terrible if you got to coach idiots like me. Do you see what I mean?
but knowing when to coach and when not
when
to
do you coach, when do you not coach?
All the different running angles and running lines and the shapes, that's not guys just making it up on the hoof.
No.
It doesn't look like it to me.
No.
No, there'll be a mixture, won't there? But I don't know.
On the decision-making thing, there's pre-planned decision-making, which generally comes from the coaches, and there's on-the-fly decision-making.
Yeah, right.
And I think some of the pre-planned decision-making in this game was really interesting, because Leinster had a clear strategy to kick goals until Toulouse were a man down. As soon as they were a man down, they flipped to the corner and executed perfectly and got, 3 tries, 2 and a disallowed try on the first yellow card, but then scored a minute later. Yeah. And then it was 2 again and
28 points with a man
a few
in the
minutes
bin.
later, which made it 126 points in the Champions Cup this year, while the opposition have had yellow cards.
Yeah.
So if La Rochelle are looking for kind of one strategy, do not get any yellow cards. You cannot afford yellow cards.
Well, that's the flip
Leinster.
side, is looking at what Toulouse did, then thinking about what La Rochelle will have to do to win. And I think Toulouse made some obviously stupid discipline decisions, which is just individuals.
Yeah, which is not just the yellow cards.
No.
Like a great example, one of the wingers, I can't remember if it was Lebel or Malia, taking out the score. So the game's already over at this point, but Leinster have a ruck 5 metres from Toulouse's line. Just take out the scrum half when he's got hands on the ball, but the ball's not picked up. Penalty, they go again and score. Things like that are just, they'd be so annoying for a coach, because it's just dull, stupid. I mean, there's loads of bad decisions by Toulouse that gave Leinster either points or
Field
territory.
Position, yeah. And they thought, and I thought the maul, which Ulster actually have used really well against Leinster this season, and a couple of South African teams have. I thought the maul was going to be a massive weapon for Toulouse, but Leinster just neutralised that. They got a little bit of change every now and again out of some big men running hard, but actually Leinster neutralised that.
They didn't do enough of that.
The tries, certainly the first 2 tries in the first half, the ones that really counted, they came from when they eventually got big men running hard and just enough forward momentum to bend the line, and then started getting the offloads in. And that's what La Rochelle did incredibly well, to a much greater effect against Exeter.
You're right.
That is what is really hard.
I think La Rochelle, and I said Toulouse would batter Leinster, didn't quite work out.
Not yet.
La Rochelle will batter Leinster.
Here we go.
La Rochelle will batter Leinster. I can't wait.
La Rochelle, in the games this weekend, La Rochelle looked like a much better side than Toulouse, but they were playing much weaker opposition.
Yeah, but I tell you what, though, I mean, we'll talk about these guys in more detail in a second. The scrummaging was frightening. There's no other word for it. That La Rochelle scrum is one of the most dangerous things I've ever seen. The first scrum of the game, I thought that is actually unsafe. And I don't often think many things are unsafe. It was unsafe. For Owini and... what's his name?
Owini, Antonio, Bogarit and Wardy.
But with Skelton.
Skelton putting his weight through Antonio against... was it Marcus Street?
Yeah.
I said this to a friend of mine who's very knowledgeable on rugby. He goes, who's Marcus Street? I said, that is the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Slightly concerning.
And Marcus Street, watching him in the game, got himself in some lovely positions, and it wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. And behind him, he's basically got a flanker pushing him. You can't do that. So how La Rochelle are going to... well, how Leinster are going to deal with the La Rochelle power is going to be fascinating, because obviously they've got some great boys themselves. But that's the one
they
I
have.
see.
And they've basically got an international pack who have played against international packs as big as this La Rochelle power.
Is anyone as big as that side of the scrum of La Rochelle?
Owini Antonio with Paul Willemse behind him is almost it's not far off.
Yeah.
Or Malherbe with Etzebeth behind him.
Yeah, it's not...
again, is not far off.
Wow.
And that Island pack, which is basically that Leinster pack, have done that and beat those teams in the last 12 months.
Yeah,
it was a last-minute try from Retier for La Rochelle, won it last year.
I was looking back on that. It was 79th minute try.
Yeah, it was.
With the conversion that won it by 3 points last year.
Yep. So I mean, to extrapolate that forward, because matchups are as much of what it's about as anything, but La Rochelle are an exceptional rugby team.
They are.
I think the improvement in Leinster means if they bring their game anything like what they can, they will win.
Yeah, so I think what did Leinster do really well this game? They imposed themselves. So because they could get their game going, that obviously meant that Toulouse couldn't get their game going. And it's much easier to control a game than it is to get into a scrap. I thought what was very impressive this week about La Rochelle was the range of rugby that they played. So yeah, they do go forward and they get over the game line with big guys. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh, actually... We'll just go and crossfield kick, or we'll just go do something else.
The Raymond Rule try with the crossfield kick, that was ace.
Because they just made Exeter look like academy players. There's no other word for it.
I mean, some of these guys are academy players.
Yeah,
they will be on the academy.
Yeah.
Like Beckinsale, who was playing for Exeter Uni a month ago.
Good lad, though.
Mad, isn't it?
Good lad.
Good lad. He had one or two wobbles, but he will be so much better for having played in that. And that's one of the things that Baxter said.
That's all has PTSD.
Well, yeah,
you just mentioned Baxter. Like, this was probably the two coaches that it's one of those times where, I want another half an hour of the programme just so those two can just talk.
I
loved it.
They had that little handshake in the post-match afterwards. So I was disappointed in two things in that post-match. One, that we didn't see any interaction other than
with
the handshake.
Two of them together,
with the two of them together.
Because Rog walked off and Rob walked in.
And the other one, I had to say, Tim, cover your ears. I thought... So, Ronan O'Gara, he was clearly... he actually said, I'm in game mode. Like, he was clearly not thinking about the interview, but he was giving quite long, considered answers. And I felt like both Baifs and Delalio kind of cut him off on a couple of occasions when all I wanted was just to listen to Ronan O'Gara talking about what's just happened and what is going to be happening in the next few weeks. He was talking about this is Leinster. One of the points he made was Leinster have to do a month like this 1 month of the year. La Rochelle have to do a month like this 10 months of the year.
Yeah,
this is what they do. This is what they do every month. And I wanted to listen to him explaining and expanding that point, and you got cut off by Delalio asking some nonsense about whatever was.
What does it mean to you?
Basically, yeah.
I'm sorry. What are your emotions?
Basically, so I was.
There's quite often a lot of voices and a lot of things going on in your ear that's unseen and unheard.
Ask them about the climate.
For one thing, there's a person constantly reminding you of when you go off air.
Yeah,
and that's 3 minutes to off air. The times when it's really scary is when you ask Rob Baxter a question and they're going, "That's 1.5 minutes till off air." You're thinking, "Oh no, is he ever going to finish?"
I don't want to have to cut him off, but
yeah.
So, but I love listening to that. I will actually. I always do it for international games. I rarely do it for club games. I'll go and listen to the. They're always on YouTube. The proper in-depth post.
Those two rugby brains are two I could listen to all day.
I used to love watching the post-match at Sale. That used to be my favourite thing.
With Dimes.
In the press room.
Oh, yeah.
But then it all sort of changed because COVID, and then you weren't allowed in the press room. And
yeah.
But you had some fascinating insights by some of the coaches.
Dimes was always funny. Like the difference in his personality from a loss to a win.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's ridiculous.
If Sale win, Dimes is in a good mood, you know everyone's going upstairs and getting absolutely leathered.
Yeah.
And it's
awesome.
bouncing. Yeah.
He's bubbly, he's having some sport with the guys. When they lose, you don't want to be asking that question. You don't want to be in there. No. Everyone's like, all the reporters looking at their shoes.
Any question? Everyone's looking around. You ask the first one, go on.
The worst one was when they had Toulouse come and play. So Toulouse showed up, and in the Heineken Cup, you've got to put forward a player and a coach. You can't just put a coach. But I don't think the coach spoke English. So he sent this Australian lock, and he sat there, and then all the reporters didn't have a single question to ask him. Just nothing. And they went, right, well, that's it then. I was like, you've just got the Toulouse player here who can speak English. It could give you some gold. Nobody wanted. All they wanted.
Richie Arnold, perhaps.
No, it wasn't. It was
just a few years ago.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was an Islander guy.
Okay.
But anyway, he just wandered off. Like, what a waste of time. But all people wanted were quotes from Dimes. That was it.
Yeah. Oh, this game, this Exeter La Rochelle. I do feel like we saw the best of La Rochelle, but the best of them against, like you say, JB, a bit of an academy side. It's not the performance that Exeter would have wanted.
Well, I tell you, let's just talk about Exeter for a second, okay? So, before the game, I was kind of hopeful that the Rob Baxter Midas approach and just great coaching, great strategizing might be enough to keep it kind of level, and then hopefully a bit of magic by some of their senior players or something would make a huge difference.
First 5 minutes was looking great.
Yeah.
Sam Simmons goes over, I'm thinking, this is interesting. Just too many weaker players, and they'll get better. So Dan Frost, I thought, had a horrible game.
But he's a talented boy. He's a young lad.
He's a great player.
Talented boy.
Great player. He just had a bad game.
Yeah.
But this is just not the time to have a bad game.
No.
You know, you can't... this is why you get paid the big money, because if you want to be an international or whatnot, you're going to have to go and beat up Booger occasionally.
And Baxter said, particularly in the first half, every time Exeter made a mistake, they found themselves under the stick. 7 points against them.
And so, like, when Yendel came on, he made such a difference. So you could just see, like, geeing up the lads. There's a little bit more confidence there in scrimmaging, which has been going back all day. The most disappointing thing for me, by far, was not actually Dan Frost, and it was not Beckinsale or any of those boys at all, even remotely. It was the senior players. The senior players did not make a shred of impact, except for
Ollie Woodburn,
Simmons.
Simmons
even Woodburn had a few drops.
Woodburn's try was brilliant, but it's not the to be. You're
talking Noel, Slade, Joe Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. The guys that should be lighting up.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Even Gray, I know he went off injured indoors.
He only had 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, you need to see him super busy, hitting every single ruck, making every single tackle. He needs to be the Johnny Gray that he was like 5 or 6 years ago with 40-odd tackles a game.
We can say it now. It would have needed Exeter to have the day of days and La Rochelle to be totally off the boil for the result to go Exeter's favour.
Yeah.
So we should just enjoy and celebrate how well Exeter have done.
Well, I guess you just have to look at it and go, like, what could this tell us about the next game? So, right at the start, obviously Exeter score, and I thought their defensive strategy was pretty good. So they're getting off the game line. I don't know if you remember this, but the first defensive set Exeter had, they marched La Rochelle back to like the halfway, and then La Rochelle went, enough of this, we'll just kick, and then they scored. You think, bloody hell, maybe they were only able to march La Rochelle back because they were committing too many numbers to tackle because they'd been too aggressive, but at the expense of something else, and La Rochelle, bam.
Well, in terms of the matchups, so this is where I think La Rochelle match up really well, is La Rochelle have got exciting rugby in their locker, but I think to beat Leinster, you've just got to keep it really, really simple and not try and batter down the door again and again and again. Actually, no, just we're just going to kick. Try and isolate Keenan. Try and, well, firstly, force the other wingers up into the defensive line and then find the grass, because that's really hard to do against Leinster.
It is. It is. I mean,
Keenan is so good.
Anyway,
but we're talking La Rochelle. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, La Rochelle have got to do what Toulouse couldn't do: just consistently get over the gain line, and once you are over the gain line, you can mix it up as much as you want. Oh my word, Gregory Aldred is it's just a god. He's a god of a rugby player.
He looked awesome, but getting front football off the back of that scrum and the back of those mauls, it does help.
Yeah, it really does help.
Do you know what?
He looked awesome still.
Recently, and in this season's Heineken Cup competition, I have stood next to Gregory Aldred. In fact, I'm thinking now the whole French back row. I stood next to Gregory Aldred, Anthony Jalonce at the weekend, not Olivon this season, but I have stood next to him. Right? Jalonce is injured, but he was on the touchline. So I've stood next to Jalonce and Aldred now, and they're incredible rugby players. They're not massive.
Jalonce isn't massive. I thought
they're not massive. Yeah, you sort of imagine they're going to be.
Aldred's not.
Olivon is.
Yeah, because Olivon's 6'7", isn't he?
Yeah,
he's like Courtney Law's size.
If we went to a CrossFit session and Anthony Jalonce rocked up, you'd sort of go. Mate. No, I bet you would notice. But
you'd notice.
Actually, do you know what? Now I think about it, I saw Jalonce with tracksuit bottoms on, and it's amazing how many rugby players you look at when they've got tracksuit bottoms and a polo shirt on, and you think, oh, they're not as big as I thought they'd be, and then you see their legs.
Yeah.
And then
Jalonce is massive. Isn't Jalonce like 6'4" or something?
So Jalonce, do you know what he's listed at?
6'4", I'd say.
6'4"?
Yeah.
Weight?
He's lighter.
107.
Yeah, about that.
Kegs.
105 he is. Which 105 for an international back row, 16 stone 7.
It's not massive, is it?
Same weight as me.
That's not massive for an international back row.
Clearly a very good player. I was just surprised. Sadly, I quite like. I haven't got the confidence to weigh them. You
have to weigh them. You have to weigh them there.
Anthony, bonjour. You can imagine how that'd go.
There is a guy on YouTube that goes around weighing strongmen. Have you seen this?
No.
So he goes around and goes, bro. So I think it's the same guy. It might be a different guy. There could be two guys that do this sort of thing. So the first guy, who could be the same guy, I don't know, goes to like Gym Bros and asks them what is their 1 rep max, and they give them they'll give a number. He goes, right, if you can do your 1 rep max right now, I'll pay you that amount in hundreds of dollars. And no one can ever do it because they always lie about the 1 rep max.
Or 1 rep max would be when you're trained for that. You're not necessarily. You don't walk around trained.
For your 1 rep max.
That's pretty funny though.
Yeah, but they always get the 1 rep max. That
is quite good. Yeah.
And the other one is height and weight. So I know this personally from rugby clubs. Now it doesn't sound funny when I explain it, but I always tell people that I'm 6 foot because it drives people. Because I'm 6'2", right? And it drives people crazy in rugby clubs that when I say I'm 6 foot and they think they're 6 foot because it's a big thing for men. They go, well, you can't be. You simply can't be. And then we have arguments, and they tell me they've been to the doctors and been measured by professionals. Like, no, you can't be
laser measured.
Yeah, laser. I was like, well, I got measured the other day, mate. Why would I lie about my height? I'm 6 foot.
Yeah, why would I say I'm shorter than I actually am?
And it drives people absolutely insane.
Any more on this game or any game or any either of these semi-finals?
Just to say something about La Rochelle, actually. Yeah. What I've been really impressed by them with is they've had 3 different Premiership opposition now, and each one has brought them something slightly different to beat, and every time they've defeated them in a different way. And actually, the team which has given them the most trouble was Gloucester, with the way that they...
And Philadelphia Ulster.
And Ulster.
Heartbreaking defeat in the last minute.
Oh, yeah, my boys.
So... Gloucester had the most success. Their most impressive victory was against Saracens because of just the tactical acumen that they showed. And Exeter, well stuck out. Hopefully someone will learn something from that, but they just were not good enough, even remotely.
We've got 2 URCV top 14 finals.
Oh yeah, because Glasgow versus Toulon.
It's Glasgow v Toulon.
Your poor beloved Benetton, JB.
0 points.
Olivon got a red carded and early in the game, and they still won 28-0
or 33. It was to nil.
Yeah, it was to nil. I didn't watch to the end.
The only bit. So I saw Scarlets Glasgow. The only bit of the Toulon Benetton game I saw was Perisse's grubber kick.
Oh yeah, lovely.
I can't remember who scored the try. But it was a pretty grubber kick. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it was good.
It's very good.
It was a good win for Glasgow as well. Looking good. So that'll be an interesting final.
Yeah. So those
And that's on
finals
the
are
Friday.
the Friday night is the Challenge Cup, and the Saturday is the Champions Cup.
Is that it's when we're in Birmingham, isn't it?
Correct.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. The weekend of 19th, 20th of May.
Lovely
Yeah,
stuff.
Looking forward to that.
Indeed. I'm meant to be going to Galway, of all places.
Are you?
Yeah.
Comments.
Well, so, Talk H had their tour this weekend, which I should have gone on, actually, and I didn't. They went to Pisa, and there's like another little holiday thing which they do. It's here to Galway. But I'm wondering if it's going to clash with...
With the 20th.
Yeah, with the 20th.
I want to
Galway.
congratulate
Galway would be good fun.
Broughton Park's big local rivals, Trafford Metrovic, just up the road. Their under 15s are a bit sore because they haven't beaten Broughton Park in several years. Big local rivals. They've tried. They're good. They're a good bunch of lads. Like them a lot.
However, just not really on your level.
They went on their tour the other weekend, and they had a shit shirt night.
Standard.
Nice.
And there was a competition for best shit shirt, and the winner was someone who went in a Broughton Park t-shirt.
Wow. Wow.
Very good.
Classic.
This is good.
Absolute classic.
Yeah, very good.
Great banter.
I like local rivalries.
Is it Steve Diamond's Trafford
Yeah,
Metrovic?
Steve Diamond played
well.
at Metrovic.
He did. He did.
I wonder where does the name Metrovic come from? What does that mean?
No idea.
Absolutely.
Oh,
no idea.
hang on. Is it like something Victoria?
Don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know.
No.
I like the stories behind names. I love the story behind.
Talk H name is phenomenal.
It's great.
Phenomenal. We've got some great coaching applicants for Talk H. I mean, I don't know how they'll get on with coaching children's rules next year, but still, it's amazing how many people are still thinking it's going to be okay next year. It will not be okay next year.
Well, just one thing on that. So I don't have a massive problem with laws being changed for kids because they're not old enough to make informed consent. I think it's ridiculous what's being brought in at adult level. I think it's just crazy. So we don't need to go over that.
No, we don't.
But I have already said, because this is honestly how I feel, I've been the person who referees whenever we can't get a society ref to cover our game, which is quite often. So I've refereed quite a lot of games this season. I've already said I have absolutely no interest in refereeing.
Nope.
Not out of belligerence, but just because how...
It's going to be a nightmare refereeing.
It's going to be a nightmare refereeing, exactly. And I feel sorry for the referees already, and I'm going to have lots of sympathy for the ones that do have the courage to step up and do it, and you can't have a game without them. That's one of the things I really fear for. For one thing, one of the lines in the law says an attacking player may not significantly lower their body height. What does significantly mean?
Who knows?
How on earth do you referee
Who
that?
knows? These guys who've written these laws do not have high IQs.
It is insane.
We discussed that at some length last week after you had to go off and get
I listened back to it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and it's crackers. Like the point I made last week was, I'd love to see the guidance that the RFU give on how they want referees to deal with that. And Lee French, friend of the pod, very good referee, said probably there won't be any guidance, which makes it even worse, because if you give some guidance around how you want to enforce it or try to enforce it, it'll still be ludicrous.
Have you heard?
But at least there'll be some consistency in this. You'll get no consistency.
But have you heard what the RFU come up with when you ask them for guidance?
Oh God!
So I will give you an example. The tackle height stuff. I was watching this demonstration by a RFU bod, whose job it is to go around and explain, and they're using things like. I mean, they're using words like airspace. So we need to get heads out the same airspace. Do you mean space? We leave you for 2 minutes to devise some guidance, and you just come out with waffle. And that's what they'll do. And this links a little bit, doesn't it, to what happened to Carl Dixon in World Rugby and whatnot, which is the people that are enforcing the laws and giving guidance to refs as to how they should do it very rarely come out and support the refs. So it'd be very nice for the RFU to say, this is what we're telling refs to do, don't mess about with them because this is what they've been told. Now, if they don't say that, all these refs are going to be on the hook for all sorts of accusations.
Well, just getting every podcast, including ours, when Carl Dixon made that decision the other week, on his back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No one thought to call him.
Just hung him out to dry.
This is a perfect moment to ask you a question. I've been really excited to share this because I was aware of the club, but I wasn't aware of the name of this chap. Does Gary Reynolds mean anything to you?
Gary Reynolds.
No.
He's down south somewhere, I think.
He is the chief executive of Rams, who have been in the hunt for National 1 promotion all season.
Oh, okay.
And I remember them when I was growing up in Newbury and playing for Newbury. That club was called Reading Gensians at the time, and they were kind of sort of low down, bottom of the food chain of the Reading clubs, but they've emerged as the premier team in the region there. Mm-hmm. And they've got a great thing going. Anyway, Gary Reynolds is the chief executive, and he did an article that's in the Rugby paper, the latest episode, and I just wanted to just read a bit of it, because you're going to love this guy, JB.
Go on then.
You had a crack at being a counsellor, and you realised that that the whole Blazer.
Well, I realised I didn't work hard enough. That's what I realised.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, if after you hear about this guy, I suspect you are like, get Gary Reynolds in the RFU, get him in there.
Anyway, I want to tell me.
He says, this is what he says, quote, "I've been a big supporter of Wasps over the years. I used to watch them play..."
Gary Reynolds.
Gary Reynolds.
It's not the guy. It's Rams, definitely not Coventry.
Chief Exec of Rams.
All right, go on then, sorry.
So he talks about several issues, including Wasps, which it starts with here. "I've been a big supporter of Wasps over the years. I used to watch them when they played at Sunbury and was in Dublin when they beat Munster in the Heineken Cup semi-final in 2004. I followed them around and loved the club, but after going bust, they should be starting at the bottom again, like Richmond, London Scottish and London Welsh had to. The RFU got it right then, but what is happening with Wasps is crazy. It's sad because you don't want to see clubs fail, but if they do, they have to face the consequences.
Yep.
In economics, you're taught about moral hazards."
Ooh, love this.
Yeah, I thought you'd love it.
Tell me more.
Rescue someone and it sends a signal to the market that if you take more risks and it doesn't work, someone will come to your aid.
Yeah. Bailouts.
Yeah. Failures should not be propped up. Let them go. And I do not say that happily. Old ones die to let new ones through, but despite having no players and no ground, a place is being held for Wasps in the Championship. You only get certainty when everyone knows where they stand. The uncertainty around Wasps means the future size of the Championship still has to be determined.
Jesus.
One advantage for the club promoted from National 1 this season is that their players will operate under the old tackle law, not the variation being introduced to level 3 and below. A dangerous tackle will include one above the base of an opponent's sternum, while a ball carrier must... Oh, right, so this isn't a quote from him. So, sorry, it goes... So, he's a National 1 club.
Yep.
If they'd have got promoted, they'd be going up to the Championship where they have the laws. This is what he said about the new laws. Quote, "It may be that this change makes it safer for players, but my concern is why it was rushed through so quickly. It's not being introduced to the Premiership and the Championship for another year at least. Tackle height is a bigger issue at that level than in the community game, so why not bring it all in at once? To me, it has been rushed through without enough data being gathered or enough guidance or detail. It's a knee-jerk reaction by people not up to the speed of the game, and has to be one of the worst decisions ever." He carries on. "We've had 3 concussions this season, one down to poor tackle technique and the other 2 accidental. One is too many, of course, but we have to stop apologising for our game.
Yeah.
It is physical, tough, combative, and involves contact. You cannot make rugby safe any more than you can make horse riding or Formula 1. Safer, yes, although this change would seem to put tacklers at greater risk of getting kneed in the head, but you cannot eliminate risk. We should be talking up the benefits of playing... you love this bit. We should be talking up the benefits of playing rugby, such as making friends for life, learning about yourself in a tough situation." He then goes on and talks about the how it's been...
From the gas pump to the grocery store, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much-needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton, with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/switch. That's mintmobile.com/switch.
Handled and the need for a shake-up at the RFU. Quote, "My experience of the executive is first class," he said. It is the council and the committees that are appalling, and they're the ones who control the game.
I disagree with them on that.
Okay. "You only have to look at the recent changes to the county's under-20s and the Papa John's Community Cup to appreciate how it's turning into a dog's breakfast. The council is not properly representative of the game. We've elected the wrong people for years, and we have to tell the council it needs to change because it's not fit for purpose.
Yeah. So
I'll just finish because it's the last paragraph now. More and more clubs are pushing for change after the clumsy way the tackle law has been handled. A number fear losing players and teams because a lot of the old guard will struggle to change technique and they've used for years, so won't bother. It's come to a head because everyone can see democracy was chucked out of the window. The council has forfeited our trust.
Right. So I've got to disagree with some of that stuff, you know.
In the totality,
but
firstly,
the tone is perfect,
and
the tone is perfect.
Is this not the sort of dissenting view as someone who's in a position at a club that's clearly operating really well?
Yeah.
It's nice to hear someone sticking their head above the parapet.
Rams got a mention by Owen Slot not so long ago. Do you remember this? So Owen Slot wrote about the worst club in the country. And the worst club in the country was, I think, it was Yorkshire at the time.
It was where?
Leeds.
No, as in Yorkshire Carnegie.
Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah. So he wrote
about Leeds Carnegie.
Leeds Carnegie. Yeah, so he wrote about the worst club in the country. But because he wrote about the worst club in the country, he then wrote about the best clubs in the country, and Rams came up on his list of 6. So, yeah, Rams on...
Alongside Broughton Park, under-15s, and Didsbury Toc H.
So,
absolutely right.
I thought that would give you a little encouragement, JB.
Well, yes. Yes. So, why do I disagree with that?
You disagree because you think Bill Sweeney needs to go. And bearing in mind the front page of the rugby paper today is that the RFU are £50 million in debt. Bill Sweeney has to go. Yeah,
so look, Bill Sweeney is dreadful, right? First and foremost, Bill Sweeney is dreadful. He is competent, but he's competent and sinister at the same time, which is kind of exactly what we don't want in an individual. He has no idea about rugby. He has no idea about why we play it, why we enjoy it. The guy is completely wrong for this job. In my mind, he's completely wrong for almost every job. But, okay, that's that.
So we really think.
That's that. Tom Iloob, or whatever the hell his name is, the chairman, they are absolutely focused on things which have nothing to do with rugby. They are obsessed by various different campaigning things and just things which nobody cares about.
Which is true of pretty much every corporate entity right now.
Exactly right, yeah. Exactly right. So, yeah. Now, the reason I don't agree with those comments about the council is not because they are not suitable. I mean, look at the guys that we elected. If you ever have to spend any time listening to Ken Andrews talk about rugby, it will blow your mind. How that guy represented us for so long and no one knew anything about him is beyond me. I don't think Dave Clark is much better, and hopefully the new guy which they've selected, he might be okay. I have no idea. But the two that were responsible for those votes are an absolute shambles. So, yeah, we've got the wrong people there. But the reason we have the wrong people there is because we weren't engaged. And I don't see how there is a better system than the one that we've got, because it's all very well saying we need to elect the right people, but how do you construct a system which can be fair and not manipulated and also get you to the outcome that you want? Does that make sense? So if I just say, look, okay, we're going to start appointing people who agree with me, that is great in principle and great for the short term of what I want. But then how on earth do I know that when the next guys come along and they have nothing in common with me, they can't just hijack the same system to appoint the people that they want? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we've got this system for the council, and I actually think it probably is the least worst system. It's not great, but the reason it doesn't work is not because we've got idiot councilmen. I mean, they don't help, but it's because the clubs are not that invested.
Yeah,
I suspect that someone I always use Bucks because I know a little bit about them, but that's a much smaller county. I think they've got 14 clubs, so their 14 clubs can often sort of talk to each other to get their councilmen to do what they want.
So if for example, there was a. If, for example, there was a region that was just inside the M60 in Manchester, you could go around and talk to the 10 clubs.
That's it.
In that area, and you could get some consensus between those 10.
Yes, yeah. Whereas when we've got 80, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So if you look at how Staffordshire have handled their business, that's what we want. We want a county that tells its rep, you do what we say or we'll fire you. Right, and that's when you get a rep which represents your county.
So we need devolvement in rugby, basically.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is.
More so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we limit the amount. I mean, maybe every 20 clubs gets counsellor, or maybe maximum size is 15, something like that.
Yeah, so it's more representative of a chunk of clubs.
Yeah,
and if you then people will say, well, how do you fund that? Because the RFU's in a massive hole financially. It's like, well, you don't. Councillors, you don't need to get all those perks. Do it
on Zoom.
Do it for the love of rugby and do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Get some of the perks, maybe not all of the perks.
Yeah. I mean, it's not...
4-star hotels in Rome instead of 5-star hotels.
Yeah, I mean, it was so obvious. One of the things which was so obvious to me in those meetings was just how much, particularly Ken Andrews, revelled in spending the money of the RFU, and how he thought we wanted to hear a report about what happened in Twickenham this week. No, we didn't. Watched it on TV. We want to know about home walkovers. We want to know about the high tackles. We want to know about things in our county. Not what you've done in Twickenham this weekend. It was ludicrous, actually. I get more angry the more I think about it.
I was trying to make you feel positive. Yeah. Sorry.
No, but he is right. But that guy is he is definitely right in the tone and tenor of what he's saying. It's just like, how do you create the system in order to get more accountability?
Was it Gareth Reynolds?
He's put down here Gary Reynolds in the Rugby paper, but they may have got it wrong. But Gary Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, sorry, I thought you were looking.
Oh, no, sorry, just confirming the name.
Yes, Gary Reynolds, like the cut of his jib.
Yes.
Crisis at RFU, hit by a £50 million bombshell.
How does that happen?
How does that happen? How is it unexpected? That's what I don't get. They're going like, we didn't... Oh, all of a sudden, it looks like we're 50 million in debt now.
Guys, I've got something to tell you about the podcast finances. A little bit of a bombshell for you. About that. I mean, it's
we're £50 million in profit this year because we've been siphoning it from the RFU.
Well, I mean, we kind of were. But how does that happen?
And that is such a large amount. I think I'm right in saying that the RFU could be in a hole such that the only way out of it is to sell assets, probably to CVC.
Probably.
Oh God!
Like, what does CVC want with all this stuff? It's going to be worthless.
Give it them. Run it into the ground.
I know. I think they want all of it.
Why? No, of course they don't.
Because that'd
be the worst outcome for CVC.
Well, they're already engaged in the NFL, which is a closed shop. So they're already invested in NFL.
Are they? Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they are.
I'm pretty sure it was in this article.
No way. NFL own all of their I mean, I can't unless they own a club. You could. That would not fly. That would not fly.
I've got an answer
for
Trafford Metrovix.
Yep.
Metropolitan Vickers. Metrovix.
Oh, awesome.
Was a British heavy electrical engineering company.
Oh, amazing!
This is actually amazing considering it's round the corner from where we live, and none of us knew about this. So, heavy electrical engineering company, early to mid 20th century, formerly known as British Westinghouse.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, Westinghouse because Westinghouse Nuclear.
Yeah.
Owned by Toshiba, I think it is, bankrupt recently in the US, but. So that's obviously a derivative of Westinghouse, who I think Westinghouse was an American engineer. Anyway, Metrovix, well known for industrial electrical equipment, including generators, steam turbines, switchgear, transformers, electronics, railway traction equipment, and the first British axial flow jet engine.
Wow.
Its factory in Trafford Park, Manchester, was for most of the 20th century one of the biggest and most important heavy engineering facilities in the world.
It's incredible.
No wonder so many bombs were dropped around Chorlton.
Yeah. Well,
the house opposite, some of the houses opposite me look different from the rest of the street because they were bombed.
Well, do you know Broughton Park, where it is now, was an airfield. It was for airships.
Yeah.
And when I get my way with Air Under 10, well, we don't talk about Air Under 10 now.
That's very cool. And let me just encourage that, because we've had Disbury Toc H called so because it was a field hospital during the wars. Kind of. But it's retained the name.
Yeah.
And Metrovic, now we understand the origin of that. Other cool rugby club origin stories, please.
There must be loads,
There must be loads of great stories.
That is awesome. I really had genuinely no idea about that.
So just whilst we're on that one, Cambridge won it, which we've not really spoke about. So I've actually seen Cambridge play this season
Sale.
Yeah, so Cambridge came into Sale, and me and a good friend of mine, Neil Wilkinson, went to watch because there's a lad there playing called Joe Green, who plays on the wing, is just sort of making his way into rugby, and they were hoping that they obviously get promoted so they don't have to play the children's laws of next year, and they've done it. And tell you what, Cambridge are a massive side. So last year, I think I'm right in saying, and I'm sure someone will correct me, by like halfway through the season, the top try scorer in that one was the Cambridge hooker, because they just kick to the corner and then they score.
So I'm just looking at the table. Is that
exciting.
Finished the National 1 table? So Cambridge, Sale FC in third place on 113 points.
113 points and they still didn't go up.
So Sale FC actually won the most games. They won 23 out of 26 games, 113 points. Crucially, only 21 bonus points. Rams won 22, so one fewer game. 22 out of 26, 114 points because they got 2 extra bonus points. And Cambridge also won 22, got 2 less bonus points, or 2 fewer bonus points, but drew 1 game. So 114 points and a better points difference because they scored more and conceded fewer.
Well, congratulations.
Cambridge.
And the other story, of course, there's been so much clamour that we need Ealing at the top of the table. Sorry, in the top table. Turns out we got that wrong. We need Jersey at the top table.
Yeah.
And I think that could work, actually.
How big's the island? Population?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mind you, is it any smaller than Gloucester or Northampton?
You need a stadium. Can you get 10,000 people into Jersey Stadium every...
Probably not. Well, maybe with temporary stands, but
let's have a look at the population.
I think I can't remember if we touched on it last week, but when we were talking about their win over Ealing, or was that 2 weeks ago? Now I can't remember. Anyway, they could certainly attract high quality players, and if they did go to the Premiership, their salary cap would stretch.
Yeah,
stretch a whole lot further, maybe like 40% further.
Maybe
because of their efficient tax laws.
There you go. Jersey population 103,000. Gloucester population 128,000.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're filling up a 10,000 seat stadium. Are you?
Well, if Gloucester can do it, now I guess it's easier if you live in, say, Cheltenham or Stroud to get to Gloucester.
What sort of a metric is that anyone cares about? Is that not just the DCMS metric that they
no
for some
idea.
reason about
10,000.
So it was some reason about that's the amount at which insurance or something. It's some. I don't think it's got any other metric beyond DCMS, and I just don't think it's a. I don't care how many people are in the stand.
10,000-seater stadium,
you won't get an argument.
I care about viable rugby clubs.
100%.
Well, none of them are viable because it's a CBC deal. So, none of them are viable.
Well, they're viable as long as you've got a multi-millionaire who's willing to throw money away.
Yeah.
They're not viable as entities on their own.
Yeah.
They're non-profit making entities.
Correct. That's what I mean. Okay, they'll still be here in another year's time.
5 years. The clock is ticking, right? I heard a saying about banks. Banks break very slowly and then very quickly. And I think it's going to be the same with rugby. It's going to break very slowly and then very, very quickly.
It's like a variant of Gates' Law, that, isn't it?
What's that?
Gates' Law is you overestimate the short-term progress. So like everyone 10 years ago was saying... self-driving cars will be here in a few years.
Yeah.
You overestimate the short-term progress, but then underestimate the long-term progress. So something just completely blindsides you because you've not seen it, like AI at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a variant of that.
What other rugby stories are there? Covered off that one. We covered off the
international selections.
Yeah, interesting. Wales. No Joe Hawkins in the Wales 54-man preliminary squad.
Yeah, this is
because of the 25 cap rule.
Yeah,
which I thought he might get away with that for the World Cup because Zach Mercer is
right. So there is something funny with his contract. I can't remember what it is, but it's something like he signed that contract when there was like no agreement with the Welsh clubs. So like the agreement sort of lapsed. He signs with Exeter, and then he's okay. There's some weird thing. Okay, so the reason I'm umming and ahhing is because, like, there's a lad called Llewellyn who's going from Cardiff to Gloucester, right? Now, he is eligible to play for Wales, even though he's moving to Gloucester, because he's not had a Welsh cap. So if Hawkins had said no to his Welsh cap in the Six Nations, he would then be eligible to play. But he said yes to his Welsh cap. So meanwhile, Hawkins isn't eligible now for Wales. However, who else is eligible for Wales, Tim?
Henry Thomas.
Henry Thomas, our old friend from Sale.
And I have to say,
England capped Henry Thomas.
England capped Henry Thomas, available for Wales.
He's playing in France.
Through parents. He's playing in France, yeah. And when he was a youngster at Sale, I was the match announcer at Sale, and he was this kid who was straight out of school. Millfield School. And Mike Brewer, who was the then head coach, signed him as a kid, put him straight into the first team. And honestly, he is one of the best props at that age I've ever seen. His hands, his skills. He's just been injury prone all the time.
We all thought, didn't we?
Knee injuries as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We all thought he was going to be the absolute business. And, as evidence of that, that's why Bath bought him. I mean, Bath were on a spending spree. Salary cap didn't matter. Bath were just going to get all the best players. Henry Thomas was that guy, but never kicked on.
Maybe it's a lesson, another example of lessons. Don't join Bath.
Don't join Bath, yes, well said. Now, Henry Thomas is only 32, isn't he?
31.
Oh, my word, that's nothing for a prop.
Big boy, top 14 winner with Montpellier last year.
I did see him scrimmage for Montpellier against one of the English teams, and I thought, not that good.
But he's better than most Welsh tighthead props.
Well, what about the English tighthead props? That's a more personal question.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So,
if England play Wales in a quarter-final and Henry Thomas monsters Ellis Genge, that could hurt.
I mean, luckily, England are relatively strong on the loose head.
Is this the first person that's gone from one home nation to another home nation? Capped. Already capped, I mean. Yeah,
Cooney has talked about it, but he hasn't actually done it. There's the uncapped Munster fly half. Was it Healy?
Ben Healy.
Who went to Scotland,
but he wasn't capped.
Again, not capped. He's not capped. Cooney was capped, but hasn't done it yet.
And again, there's all the lads, isn't there?
And Henry Thomas hasn't got a cap yet. He's in a preliminary squad.
Yes,
there's Cam Redpath. There is.
There's loads of players.
Gary Graham.
There's loads of players who've switched allegiance, but this is no one who's played for.
Yeah, but they're not played.
Potentially playing for another country.
The hilarious
home nations as well. Yeah,
the hilarious story of Sam Moore, who was called into the England squad. It's still ridiculous to this day.
Gary Graham,
yep.
But that was before this law change. There's Kerr Barlow is apparently one. He's eligible for Australia.
Oh yes, he is, isn't he?
Yeah,
interesting.
He could play. And Miafu, who you got to see in the flesh this weekend.
Apparently that was Eddie Jones's first phone call was to Emmanuel Miafu saying, "Are we too late?" And he went, "Yeah, you are."
Could you imagine that, a second row with Miafu and Skelton? I mean, you're going to have some jumping back rows, but your scrum's going nowhere.
Well, jumping props won't be easiest to find. I can do that.
You are a jumping tighthead prop.
I'm a jumping tighthead prop. It's not a problem.
Who can also play wing and fullback.
Exactly right.
Now, just in terms of that, it was on Eddie Stevens' Rugby Ranter Banter pod latest episode. He mentioned it again, and it's something he's mentioned for years. To give him credit, he's not just coming up with it now, and I'm sure he's not the only person that said it. But I heard him say it and thought, honestly, he's got a good point. England's number 8 is not nailed down. Ellis Genge.
I mean, if England's number 8 was currently, Jasper Wiese, he's not dissimilar.
He's not exactly.
He's not dissimilar.
Yeah.
But no is the answer. The answer is just no.
No, Ellis Genge to 8. We have Barbary and let's just put Sam Simmons in the centres.
Yeah,
we'll just get
get your 15 best lads. Go
pack 15.
Yeah. Just go. We're not going to win the World Cup. We might as well just try something different.
Is Barbary not out for another 12 months now?
Sorry,
I think Barbary's up for another 12 months, isn't he?
Poor Barbary.
Yeah.
He's maybe he shouldn't have gone to Bath, but maybe his injuries are just going to be too severe.
I agree. And let's just go back to Wales again. What the whole thing's a farce. The whole thing's an absolute farce. I mean, we've spent we're about to destroy the community game at the altar of player welfare, and then you've got this young lad who's one of the few bright spots for for Wales. He's moving across the border to England. There's no reason why he can't play for his nation. Where is the welfare angle of basically taking away a lad's international career because he won't do what you want? It's just nasty. I hate them all. I hate them all.
And I thought it might be the old rule, but I thought if you had to have been made, at the time of signing the contract, you had to have been made a market rate offer, which there's one quite clear way of proving whether it's market rate or not is, were you offered more money in England? But in this, presumably at the time when he signed that Exeter, all his Wales offers were totally up in the air. No one knew what on earth was going on. It feels like if Hawkins wanted to kind of pursue this from a legal angle...
Well, I would love to test...
That would be a wonderful test.
I would love to test the validity of the language of market rate offer and then just say, well, what about this market rate offer?
Yeah.
I mean, you said market rate offer. Well,
so what I don't know is market rate offer still part of the...
I don't know.
The rules around it? And if it's not, is it just down to the 25 cap rule and then restriction of trade and that kind of argument?
Yeah. But it's such a clumsy phrase. It's an insulting and clumsy phrase. The market... but we just decided it was a market rate. You don't mind it. Yeah. That's not how markets work. That's not a thing. I had some really interesting conversations this week with people in rugby media about rugby and the direction it's going in with all the safety. But you know what? The more I think about talking about that, the more I can't be bothered.
Well, just to back up the kind of just on this negative tip for a minute, and we've had a bunch of emails like this. This is
okay. Let's do some emails.
Adam Davis, contact EggChasers@gmail.com. Dear gents, pod good. As a bit of context, I play for a small club in West Sussex. We've only been going for 30-ish years.
Oh, that's cool.
We're a village club with no youth teams, so we are very reliant on people from around the village playing and dragging friends along. We have a tiny squad. There's about 24 of us, so our ability to field a team for matches is stretched. But amazingly, we still manage, as everyone just loves playing with their mates.
Mm-hmm.
Since the RFU's decision regarding the tackle height was announced, a lot of the team have said, thanks but no thanks. Unfortunately, this team will fold. We don't have a clubhouse, so have to use a village social club. And I don't want to turn into this a lads thing, but after every game, we head to the bar for a few drinks, putting money into that club. The rest of the time, the bar is very quiet, and without the rugby team, I think the social club may also go under.
Cheers, Bill.
Thank you, Adam, for that. And just unfortunately, and this is where I want to be really positive about rugby, and we've talked about some Champions Cup and this stuff, but there's no getting around this.
I think we've over the years have been positive when it's right to be positive, and called it out and spoken frankly about everything that has gone wrong when it has gone wrong.
The problem is, in previous years, the answer would be obvious, wouldn't it? Go and play rugby. But I don't want to play rugby. I don't want anything to do with it, and I imagine lots of other people. So how can
I think most people sort of have a moderated version of your opinion.
But how can we as rugby podcasters? Well, you guys can, but I can't, right? How can we encourage people to play rugby if we don't want to play ourselves? And this is what I don't get about all the other podcasters who claim that they love the game but don't actually play. Like, how can you claim to love the game and encourage it if you don't actually play? So it is a bit...
well, I don't actually play anymore, really.
Yeah, you coach.
For the odd vets team.
No, that is not... That you're very much involved. Very much involved. So, the old solutions I'd give for everything, which is like go play, go get involved, they just don't work because I don't want to be involved. Don't want to be involved with children's rules.
There's a lot of people talking about the Netty yellow card, and I think I covered that off by saying that. So thank you for your emails. I'm not ignoring it, but hopefully I covered it off and put.
Generally speaking, we're not going to answer emails about yellow cards, are we? So
no. When there's a talking point, I just think it's because I already covered it off. I just want to be fair to the people that email. So thank you very much.
Oh, I do want to actually make a point on the
emails. We're going to answer are the ones which are novel to your club.
On on the Leinster game that were that game played in France, who was it? It was Jimmy O'Brien trying the corner.
Yeah.
100% would have stood because they never would have found that final angle, which proves that he dropped the ball 3 inches from the line.
Well, the Irish director, it took ages to find.
We
It
got
took
that
so
final
long
angle.
to get the angle, didn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't believe we actually got that angle.
Yeah.
Fair play to the Irish director.
Yeah, and John Owen is a listener from Houston, Texas, and has been a long time
Sabercats.
listening since 2017. Yeah, and he just wanted to send. He said, "I just want to send you guys a message to say that given JB's recent disillusionment with the game, for reasons which I agree with him on,
Excellent.
I think if he checked out an MLR game at some point, he'd enjoy it for the following reasons. As far as I've seen, there's no campaigns." The focus is on athletes and rugby. No obsession over highlighting head injuries and amplifying slogans like "Make Rugby Safe." The MLR sponsors target the audience rugby should be targeting, unashamedly, i.e. largely males with active lifestyles. For example, RTIC Outdoors, an outdoor appliance apparel company whose ad reads, RTIC Outdoors, built tough like a rugby player.
Makes sense, doesn't it? How does that not make sense?
I mean, it does kind of make sense.
Kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Although I'm sure it sounds cringy to some, you guys get the point. Other sponsors include protein powder, nutrition supplement companies.
Good.
The league
Things I want to buy.
The league frequently releases big hits highlights and tries to promote the gladiatorial components of rugby. Overall, MLR, although going through its struggles in its nascent years, which almost every pro sports league does, continues to grow as a promising rugby competition that highlights the game's components that are actually attractive to the general populace in what should be a large commercial TV market for rugby here in the US.
I'm loving that. Loving all of that.
So there you go. So I'm trying to give you.
I can't play MLR, mate.
Well, in about.
I probably could actually.
In 10
you'd have a couple of good years.
And also in 10 days' time, you can go to America again.
Oh, why is the vaccine stuff gone?
Yeah, I think so. So let's go and check out Houston Sabercats.
Yeah, well, look, winning again. So that's more wins. Yeah, excellent. 11 days time. I wonder. Okay, that's good.
Funny because it's true. Right, there we go. Done on the emails for now. Oh, other than I've got an email. We've got a quiz for next weekend. So
So we've got some games next weekend to talk about.
Yeah,
It's final round.
round 24 of the Premiership, which has absolutely nothing riding on it. Except for 8th place.
It's all done, isn't it?
It's all done.
Yeah.
So the choice of which games to pick for BT Sport was really tough for this one, because what would you do? Would you focus on the semi-finalists in their games against teams which have nothing to play for, or would you focus on the battle for 8th place? What would you do if you were programming a TV station?
Probably the semi-finalists, because you can weave some stories for next week about who's...
I think that's what I might have done, in fairness. They've gone for the battle between Bath, Gloucester, Bristol for 8th place.
I think I would have done that. Yeah, because you don't know what you're going to see from the semi-finalist teams. You'll probably see kids.
Yeah, it's fair.
So Gloucester and Bristol are playing each other.
Gloucester and Bristol playing each other. That's a bit of a shootout.
And...
Oh, no, Bath, if they win, get it, don't they?
Amazing.
I think so.
Or Bath in 7th.
The table I've got right now is Bristol are in 8th, Bath are in 9th, Gloucester in 10th. So it's in Bristol's hands. If Bristol get a 5-point win and maintain, they've got an 8-point difference advantage over Bath. And all 3 teams have won 7 games as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, maybe
it's in Bristol's hands. So Bristol, Gloucester.
You can create a story, and those are rugby fanatical areas, so they'll watch.
Yeah.
Who do Saracens, Leicester, Sale, and...
So Saracens travel to Bath. So it's
okay, so you get to see Saracens.
Yeah, we get to see Saracens. Tigers host Quins, which ordinarily would be a good game.
That would be a great game.
Quins, everyone will be on the beach.
Yeah.
Marcus Smith won't want to get injured before.
Yeah.
Beach and World Cup prep.
Yeah.
London Irish host Exeter. So that is just
that should have been a massive game.
Yeah, just a totally dead. Whoever wins that gets 5th place.
Ooh, wow.
Do you know what they need to follow? They need to follow our fantasy rugby draft final.
Oh no, not
The final game of fantasy rugby draft ever, because it's not doing Premiership anymore.
Am I in the final?
No. Unfortunately, not JB. I am though.
Is it,
well
is it
done.
Poole in the final?
No.
Oh,
he got pipped.
Poor Poole.
It's Kirk
Oh,
wow.
good lad.
How many active teams are there left?
in his debut season.
Well, 2 because it's the final.
It's the final.
His debut and first and last season.
Now I need to look. So I've got Andre Pollard. He might not play. I've got Joe Marchant. He might not play.
These clubs can get rested.
I've got Tomo Flaherty. He might not play.
No.
I've got Alex Dombrandt. He might not play. I've got Chris Chunza. He just played, so he might not play. This is a disaster.
It is, isn't it? You're screwed, mate.
Oh well.
Kirk's a smart operator as well.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck, Kirk. I follow my rugby draft like I drink my white wines with the ABC motto: anything but Chardonnay and anything but Cocker.
Exactly.
I know. It hurt so much how smug I was that year I did win.
And bought yourself a ring, a Super Bowl ring.
Why not? It's all
So
over.
I don't know who's going to win.
Can we try and approach rugby draft to try and buy it off him again?
No. I showed someone rugby draft who does coding, and there's a developer. He's like, I can't work with this. I just can't work with it. Apparently, it'd cost you a fortune to build it up.
You'd be better building it from the ground up.
Yeah, you would. And then and the thing is, you got to buy the data as well. I think
The Opta data.
Yeah, I don't fancy that.
So we can just.
And also,
Can't we just pay some kids to do it cheap?
So Premiership Rugby is back on ESPN. They had a period of time, so they don't do...
Oh, really?
Yeah, the stat stuff. They don't do Champions Cup, for example.
Do you know, like...
They do International and Premiership Rugby.
Premiership Rugby are such idiots, right? So, back in the day, the NFL decided that it was going to film all of its games, which was like really novel.
I've just been listening to the Acquired podcast on the NFL.
And I'm listening to this and I'm like...
recommend...
This is not hard.
What podcast is it?
Acquired.
Brilliant podcast, yeah.
Which is... So it's business and they go deep into individual, normally tech and or media companies.
Acquired, as in ACQ.
Yeah.
ACQ, yeah, okay.
It is. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? So... It's Ed Sable, wasn't it? The head of NFL Films, yada yada yada. Right. So anyway, they had a whole department in house, and as they described it, it's kind of like, do what you want, just don't lose us money.
Just break even. As long as you're not costing us anything, do whatever you want.
Yeah. So this would be so easy for someone in the Premiership to do. So easy, but alas, they're stupid. Their communications, well, hopefully it will have changed now. There's been a turnaround in personnel. But there's just so many. You just look at what they've done for the last God knows how long, and they just don't get it. Like, they're now trying to build a show to sell to Netflix or Amazon
Prime
or someone. I don't know if they've even sold it yet.
Wherever. But
I'm not even sure that's going to work, because the novelty of the F1 Drive to Survive is it was the first one. There's loads of them now. Have you seen the Man City one? Have you seen the
tennis one?
I've seen the
tennis one.
I've seen the All Blacks one, and I watched the Tottenham one just because I found it entertaining watching everything fall apart.
That's the one thing I forgot. I still need to get that.
There's a cricket one.
I still need to get those lumberjack shirts from the New Zealand one.
They're cool. They're really cool. Yeah, I'm not interested in buying a fantasy rugby draft website type thing and then all of rugby shutting down in 5 years' time. I think
What a 5 years it'd be, though.
We need to pivot this podcast to talking only about the French top 14. Because that is the only game in town.
It might be.
It is the only game in town. Everything else is a waste of time now. The future is the top 14.
URC is more interesting as well.
It's
URC playoffs this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are it's top 14 playoffs at some point soon, isn't it?
So no, they start August.
Finals until June.
Yeah.
So I want to think about something, boys.
There's normally a 2-week break in between the last match of the season and the first match of the top 14 season.
So I just want you to think about something. We know about the Premiership CVC deal, so I don't want to go over that, but it means that they're missing a third of their income. CVC has a similar deal with the URC, right? The URC also has a relationship with these absolute grifters at Grift Nation, otherwise known as Rock Nation. On top of that, do you know how much it costs Super League, Rugby League, to send a Rugby League team to Catalans once a year?
Oh, once per year per team.
Yeah.
So they're sending, whatever it is, 11 teams out to Catalan. Oh, for that one trip?
200 grand?
Well, is this per club? Is this
Per
in
club,
total?
just
per
one club.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be that much. I'll go...
So
because you have about 50 people, or
Yeah.
40 people.
let's just do 50.
Let's say
So
300
£200 flights for
300
50 people.
Yeah. That's
So, so that would be
10 grand.
10 grand.
hotel,
plus the same.
hotel rooms.
For you're probably going to go.
It's probably about another 10 grand.
Yeah, you're probably talking include food, transfers, all the rest.
70 grand.
50k.
It's about 100k. There's 100k to take your team to Catalan, your Super League team. So the URC have got a similar deal to the Premiership.
Hold on, before you go further, the only relevant part is how much more it costs than going to another team already in the league.
Yeah, but that's like 2 bus, isn't it?
That's like from Widnes to St Helens.
Yeah. you're talking
10
like,
quid in a taxi.
Yeah, you can drive yourself there.
well, all the players, you pay their fuel bills.
Yeah.
They're probably going to claim
45p a mile. There you go. There's your 6 quid, lads.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be that for many of these. You go into Hull, right, it's going to be like 20 quid a player.
Yeah.
You go into Wigan, Saints, Warrington, Widnes, Lee, Salford. Like, you're talking less than a tenner per player.
Half of those clubs in Super League are profitable. People don't realise that. That's
Are they?
amazing, yeah. Half the Super League clubs are profitable.
They spend so little, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you know one person, the chief executive of Australian Rugby, I forget the chap's name now, he's stepped down.
Yes, he has, hasn't he? Why?
But I don't know why. I don't know if there's a story there, but he oversaw a significant deficit into a profit.
Did he?
He stepped down as, in terms of fiscally, a very successful chief exec. So RFU, have a look.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we can't do worse than the current one. Yeah, so just think about the URC, how much it's spending to fly these teams everywhere. Because it must cost an absolute fortune.
Heineken Cup as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that will be an absolute fortune.
Like the URC, how can it last?
I guess the URC has the advantage, the on-paper advantage of as soon as you start shipping people to South Africa, you tap into a 55 million people market.
Yeah.
Whereas Catalans, I know France is a 60-something million population, but Catalan, they're not selling Super League to 60 million people. You're selling it to a tiny corner of southern France and north-east.
I mean, Italy's a big market in its own right. But yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Just some food for thought there. And whereas France, top 14. That's the only game in town.
And they're not even allowed to fly their boys to oppositions.
No, they're not, are they?
If it's less than is it 2 hour, less than a 2 hour
They've
flight.
got some crazy eco ban on flights.
Yeah.
But I heard this, and then I was looking at World Cup planning, and you can fly internally all over the shop.
Yeah, because if it's over 2 hours.
Oh, but then the trains are really good.
Yeah.
But that's for that. But yeah, rugby teams don't travel by train. They should. That'd be cool.
Football teams travel by train.
Oh, do they?
I'm sure Liverpool have travelled by train recently.
Sometimes they do, but only like specific routes, like Manchester to London or Liverpool to London.
Yeah.
You might as well go by train. Because if you go into the airport...
Imagine trying to shepherd Liverpool football team through Liverpool Station and then all the way through the London Underground. With the security operation.
They won't do underground. They'll be on a bus.
So they get to the other station.
They get to Euston.
And then ushered onto a bus.
Yeah. There'll be a separate exit.
There must be, yeah.
That'd be carnage.
They won't be doing the underground.
In their tracksuits. Unless they take me like wigs and stuff. Right, okay, so... Yeah, okay, I think we're done here.
So the game's next weekend then?
Yeah.
Well,
does it matter?
The Premiership... I don't want to predict the Premiership because it's pointless.
Yeah,
but look,
kind of is.
the URC, so we've got Friday night, which is 7:35. My beloved Ulster hosting Connacht, all-Irish affair.
Does it mean anything?
This is quarterfinals.
Oh, it does mean something.
So it does mean something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, come on, Ulster. Then on Saturday...
Leinster host Sharks.
Yeah, so Stormers Bulls. So you got an all-South African in Cape Town. Leinster host Sharks. And Sharks, who will be preparing for this, will be ready and rested, whereas Leinster will probably have to rotate a little bit.
Yeah. If they win to win both tournaments, they've got to go quarter-final, semi-final, Champions Cup final, URC final. It's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough, which makes when Exeter did it so impressive, and Saracens when they did it so impressive. So Leinster Sharks and Glasgow hosting Munster. Glasgow are fresh off a travel to Scarlets for the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup, and that's it, isn't it? Those are the four quarters.
A couple of fixtures to look out for in round 24 of the top 14. Massive game. Racing 92 play Bayonne. Currently, Lyon are in 6th place. So you've got Bordeaux 4th, 58 points. The top 6 get through to the playoffs. Bordeaux 4th, 58 points. Toulon 5th, 57 points. Lyon 6th, 56 points. Racing 7th, 56 points. Bayonne 8th, 54 points. So,
and there's 3 games to go in that, isn't there?
3 rounds to go. So yeah, that game in particular is massive. Racing against Bayonne. Toulon are at home to La Rochelle. So
it looks like,
and Lyon are at home to Perpignan. So you'd imagine Lyon are going to get a win. Bayonne could be knocked out, and if Lyon, Racing and Toulon all win, it is down to the wire. It's getting quite exciting. We should keep an eye on the top 14.
We should definitely keep an eye on the top 14.
It's also interesting that Toulouse and La Rochelle, the two semi-finalists for the Champions Cup, they 6 and 7 points clear at the top of the table.
Next weekend, the top 14 round 25 match is between Racing 92 and Toulon, 8 p.m. on Saturday evening.
Awesome.
Which could be a shootout for a playoff spot.
Awesome.
So, just a quick question.
Racing v Toulon, 8:05 next Saturday. Are you around for a couple of beers and watch that?
Is there anywhere
Did I ever say no to that?
Where can we watch? Is it on Premier Sport?
Do you still have Premier Sports subscription?
I believe I do.
This could be the one.
This could be the one game.
The £140 a year game.
Here we go, boys. Strap in.
Shall we?
Yeah, but
I'd do that. Yeah,
I'll be up for that.
definitely.
All right.
8:05. That's a great. I love the 8 o'clock kickoffs as
That's if
well.
I'm not working on a boat. No, I'll be fine. I don't need to work.
Work on a boat all day. Come back for that.
Yeah, fine.
We'll have a few.
Can I have a key to your place if you are working on the
Yes,
boat?
big
So I can come and watch top 14.
Yeah, I'll have to check if I do have my subscription, but I've got to spend this podcast cash on something. So.
So there we go. I think we've done the rugby. Thank you for your support. Patreon.com/EggChasers to fund.
Hey,
if you want to hear about the top 14, help fund it.
Do you want to talk about my Twitter departure on Patreon?
Oh, that'd be spicy.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Patreon.com/EggChasers.